I just wanted to share with you my story about my dream that came true. Um, a bit of a mystical story, I suppose, and had synchronicities in it as well, and some of you may be able to relate. It was about 2004, 2005, I think, if I remember right. Um, so I had been arguing with my nana, and not like in a nasty way, just sort of, she was trying to get me to write a book, and she was telling me that she wanted me to write this book to share our experiences so other people could feel supported and not alone. And I was at the kitchen sink washing the dishes, and she was like being really insistent. And I was like, I had like at that stage 4 children. My youngest was still a baby, and I was like, oh Nana, like I don't know anything about writing a book. I'm so busy. She was just being really insistent, and in the end I actually stamped my foot at the sink and turned around and said, look, if you find an editor and publisher, because I don't know anything about that, I will think about it. I'll start writing it. And she just went, okay, I'll do that, not a problem. And then I woke up. And the dream was so real in my head. After I woke up, I was continuing to talk to my nana. And nana had passed away like, I don't know, a year or so before at age 96. And I lay there and I was just like, it was so real to me. It took me a while to untangle my head from it, my thoughts from it. And I was like, wow, okay. It was just like I was really talking to her, and she was really there. And it really lingered with me, and it stayed with me, that dream, because it had been so powerful. For those of you that don't know me, I grew up in Jehovah's Witnesses and left in my early 30s. I had experienced some trauma in there, and some of my children had too, which is one of the main reasons that I left. And my nana had disclosed to me at a visit, I won't go into that now, some trauma she'd had. And so that's what she was meaning by writing a book, sharing our experiences so other people wouldn't feel so alone. So that day I took the kids to school. For those of you that don't know, Jehovah's Witnesses is one of those religions that when I was in it, if it was here to exactly, didn't associate too much, socialise with people who weren't Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'd only just started to pull away from it. So I had got Olivia involved in jazz ballet, and she was doing that after school. It was something very new and different because the children hadn't been, I was bringing them up as I had been. They weren't associating with anyone who wasn't Jehovah's Witnesses up until that stage that I started to pull away. But that particular day, Olivia had jazz ballet after school, and I got there a bit early, and I thought I'd go in and wait a little bit in the hall. And as I was waiting there were other mothers that I recognised sort of off to the side that knew each other talking. But there was another lady, a new lady I didn't recognise, and she was really open. She started talking to me, was really friendly, and I was chatting back. And all of a sudden, as the class ended, she said to me, I just live across the road. Do you want to pop in and have a cup of tea? And my daughter her child had been doing the jazz ballet too, and they're like, yes, can we keep playing? And I was sort of felt quite anxious, but I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. It was just all how it came about. It was just very organic and natural. And so we went across there, walked across the road, and she was making us a cup of tea. And during the course of the conversation, I found out that she had left Jehovah's Witnesses when she was, I can't remember now how old, but I was like, wow, like we were sort of sharing some experiences and sort of bonding over that. And all of a sudden she said to me, oh, I've just won an award. I'm a book writer. I've just won an award for a children's book that I've just had published. And I was like, oh, wow. I said, I've just this morning was thinking about maybe starting to write a book. And she stopped what she was doing. She was actually at the kitchen sink. I don't know whether she was rinsing some cups. She turned around, she took hold of my hands and she said, Debbie, you are a writer. You need to write this book. And I was like, the hairs on my arms stood up. And I was like, I don't know anything about like publishing, editing. She goes, don't worry about that. She said, I've got lots of, like, she said, I have got a publisher. I know all about, I've had editors I've worked with. She said, you just write the book and I can sort that part out. Literally, I was like, oh my goodness, this was the day I woken up after the dream. I just couldn't believe it. And I was like, okay, in my head, as I left, I was like, okay, Nana, like you win, definitely we'll do that. So long story short, it did take me a few years to finish writing the book. I did have 4 children. I did end up as a single mum on my own. After my marriage, I left my marriage. At one stage, things had stagnated, and just a little add-on to that, just things had stagnated. My daughter and I'd taken her out of school for the day. I know it's a naughty thing to do, but sometimes I did that if I'd felt that we hadn't had one-on-one time together. Hard with 4 kids to have one-on-one time when you're a single parent. And we were doing the day together, and there was a psychic fair down the road, and I'd never been to one, and she really wanted to go. We'd driven past it that morning, and I said, okay. So we pulled in and we walked in, and this was, a couple of years after the dream. And I'd pretty much probably written about 100,000 words at that stage. I'd written a lot, but hadn't looked in the editing or publishing or anything that Raylene had offered. And the particular one we wanted was busy, so we ended up going in for a card reading. It was for my daughter, and I was just sitting there, and the lady was reading her cards. So started off doing the tarot cards with her, and this was all very new for me too, and I was quite nervous about it all. I was like, I'd been told it was a big no. All of a sudden, the lady stopped the reading and looked at me and said, "Are you writing a book?" I was like, all the hairs on my body stood up. She goes, I have to tell you this. I have a very insistent voice coming in that you have to finish this book. It's going to be successful. It's going to be read by a lot of people, but you have to finish it and get it out there. I was like, oh, wow. Like, okay. And she finished the reading. So I finished the book. I ended up self-publishing it. I wrote it under a pseudonym. This is the book. Inside, Outside. I wrote it under my nana's name, Jenny Hayworth, which was her maiden name. It won, as you can see, finalists in the Beverly Hills Book Awards and silver medalists in the Reader's Favourite Book Awards for 2014. Both those awards were. It was either downloaded or sold 60,000 times. Some of them were free giveaways, but yeah, so I ended up, the book was published, and it was one of the top 100 most reviewed self-published books in 2014. It was in the top 100 for Amazon. So that's one of my examples of a dream and synchronicities and a connection with something higher than myself, where there was a bigger picture. We're connected to something greater. Yeah. Does any of you relate? Have you had a dream that's come true, or a dream that's been meaningful, or a synchronicity?